Stephen, welcome. It's great to have you here today, this afternoon. Thanks for taking the time.
Nice to be here, Phong, and thank you to yourself and MicroStrategy for putting on this event. It's been great.
I've been looking forward to this conversation all week, and I figure you're going to have a great insight into what is occurring within Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, especially with corporations over the course of the last year. But before we dive right in, maybe you could quickly introduce yourself, your company, and what it is that you do within the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency world.
Yeah, so I'm the co-founder and CEO of BitPay. We are actually the oldest cryptocurrency company in the world. We were founded back in 2011, and have been processing Bitcoin payments since then. And we're happy in those early days to do 5 or 10 transactions in a day, and have grown quite substantially since then. So, basically what we do is we enable companies to either accept payments from their customers in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin being the predominant one, or initiate payments. So paying out affiliates, paying out employees. We tie into most of the major payroll platforms that you can imagine, and make it very easy for companies to offer as a benefit to their employees the ability to get paid in crypto. And we built that for ourselves. Our own employees love to get paid in Bitcoin, and so we built that from the earliest days of the company and turned that into a product. So in terms of the payment acceptance, we do e-commerce and point of sale. Recently, we did a joint venture announced a joint venture with Verifone. So if you're a Verifone customer, you can turn on crypto payments, and we power that. And so it's e-commerce, terminal, point of sale. We also do billing and invoicing. So a lot of what we do is with professional services type companies that need to send out a bill via email and allow their customer to pay in crypto. But the company was founded back in 2011. I got into this, coming at it from the technology side, and was very fascinated by something called DigiCash way back in the day. You're going back to the early 1990s. And, I just got really interested in this concept of, a true internet protocol for payments. And I was drawn to a number of different projects over the years. And then, late 2010, read the Satoshi white paper and just was captivated. And, it aligned up well with, in terms of my career and wanting to get back into a small company, and found Bitcoin and decided I needed to do something around that. And that led me to conversations with my co-founder, and we started the company back in 2011.
Well, you are, it's an honor to speak to a true Bitcoin OG. Tell me a little bit more about this origin story, right? Like, so you've been in the payment space for a while. Mm-hmm. I assume more traditional payments and payment rails. You came across this.
No, actually, I don't come from a payments background at all. I was fascinated by DigiCash, and then later in the early days of Bitcoin, because of sort of the permissionless nature of these platforms. So you didn't have to be, form a company, get licensed to do all this. You could just start writing code. So my background is computer science, and I was just really, fascinated by this idea of how do you take, something in a physical form like physical money and replicate that in the digital realm, yet do so in a way that didn't require like a centralized company, or a central bank to manage it. And I was just fascinated by that topic, and there was lots of discussion prior to Bitcoin about how to do that. But no, I didn't come from a traditional payments background. Most of my computer science background is in telecommunications, actually. So did a little bit with a banking software company in my career, but just a brief stint. So yeah, anyway.
Great. Fascinating. So, there was a time whenever, when every celebrity or sports athlete came out and said, I'm going to get paid in Bitcoin, there was always sort of the footnote, powered by BitPay. So you must have a great insight into, what's happening out in the world of Bitcoin related payments, corporations. Tell me a little bit more about your customer base, and especially the corporate clients.
Yeah. So any company that needs to conduct payments and wants to tap into this new world of Bitcoin, they're our customer base. So we have, practically every vertical represented, but we've gained traction in a number of verticals where you pretty much at this point have to offer Bitcoin as a payment option. A lot of luxury goods companies are, our customers, clothing, companies like PacSun, companies like, AppMex that sell our bullion dealers. That industry pretty much universally accepts crypto at this point. But we also do a lot on the B2B supply chain space, and so think about a vendor receiving payment in crypto from a customer that's overseas, and so we do a lot of that business as well. So it tends to be cross-border, tends to be international in nature, and many of these companies find it easier to pay their vendors using Bitcoin than a lot of their traditional payment options, and that use the correspondent banking system and whatnot. There's a lot of cost and inefficiencies in that system.
And so, where are you licensed, and where do you do business? Sounds like you're doing business all around the world. Tell me how that process works.
Well, you have to get licenses in within just the United States. You have regulatory requirements at the federal level as well as all the states. So you need to get money transmitter license. We all know about New York, where there's the BIT license, which we have the BIT license. So pretty much we have the U.S. covered, we have Europe covered, and then different capabilities in different countries beyond that. But on the receiving end, where it's a merchant and a customer receiving payment, most of those customers tend to be in North America, South America, and Europe. We haven't penetrated too much into Europe, even though we do have capabilities in parts of, Asia. We do have capabilities in parts of Asia, but most of our concentration is North America and Europe.
Great. So tell me about a typical customer journey. I'll give you two use cases, right? One, I'm a retailer. I'm watching today. I want to tap into Bitcoin as a payment mechanism because my customers are demanding it. I think it'll drive more traffic to my website. From wanting to do that to actually doing it, how long does it take? And then maybe the second one being, I have an employee base that has demanded Bitcoin. They just watched NYDIG present, and I think there was a number out there that said 43% of employees said they might leave their job for another place that would give them the option of being paid in Bitcoin, right? How does that journey work if I'm an employer and I want to be able to pay my employees in Bitcoin, sort of front to end?
Yeah, so taking the first one for first use case, which is a company that wants to accept payment, that can be, and by the way, you hit right on it. It's customers demanding to pay this way, and it's employees demanding to get paid this way. That's happening. But for the merchant, it can be as simple as sign up for an account and put a button on your website, and you're done. Some of our larger customers like Microsoft, AT&T, that have their own custom e-commerce platforms, they're tying directly into our APIs. And we have great, robust client-side libraries that they can utilize. That may be a couple weeks. I think PacSun, they actually said soup to nuts, they did it in about 2 and maybe 3 weeks. And they said if they had realized that it was only going to take that long, they would have done it years ago. So I think we've got the process really, really down and make it very simple for companies to integrate. On the employee side, it's really the same story. And in fact, probably even simpler. Like I said, most of, whether you're using ADP or some other one of the other major payroll services, we can tie into that and integrate with that and allow your employee to just sign up and put in their Bitcoin address, and they can start and define how much Bitcoin they want out of their paycheck, and it'll just automatically start showing up in their wallet every week, or even every day if you want to pay that frequently.
So I'll be the skeptic here, Stephen, right? Like days, weeks. I mean, we're talking about accepting payment in Bitcoin. We're talking about paying people in Bitcoin. Aren't there accounting, treasury issues I have to work through, regulatory issues, governance issues. Like, how can it be so simple?
Well, I would say there are no real, we addressed all of those issues, right? Whether it's on the compliance side through our licenses, or on the accounting side. That's a great question too. And what you're pointing to is a lot of questions that businesses will have, and their accountants will want to walk through it. Their lawyers will want to walk through it, and make sure it's all okay. And we've done this a million times, right? So we know the answers to these questions. On the accounting side, usually a company is going to conduct their payments in whatever their accounting currency is. And so what Bitcoin becomes for them is simply a way to offer, it's a new payment rail. And so money's going to come onto their balance sheet in dollars as they process those payments. Now, if in addition to that, they want to make a balance sheet investment, we recommend keeping that separate from their payment flow, and do your payments in whatever your accounting currency is. And BitPay will take will handle all the currency exchange and deal with those accounting complexities for you. That's why it's really valuable for companies to use BitPay. We can make all that very simple, and it's no different than accepting a credit card payment.
I see. So it's actually you're taking a lot of the exchange risk, the if you will, away, and you're actually clearing to the companies in U.S. dollars, hypothetically, and similarly, payments out are done by the company in U.S. dollars, and you then translate that into Bitcoin or exchange that into Bitcoin.
That's correct. Of course, we support settlement in all of the currencies that we support, whether it's cryptocurrencies or fiat currencies, but yes, dollars, euros, whatever the company wants to receive for settlement. We push that to them, and that way their accountants don't have to deal with gains and losses. It's a great payment option for their customers, and as I said, it works much like a credit card payment from the perspective of the accounting job. So you're seeing those payments come in, those settlements come in every day. You're reconciling all the transactions. And from an accounting perspective, it's really no different than a credit card payment.
Fascinating. So you've been doing this for 11 years, right? Or you've been a corporation for 11 years. You've probably been doing this for a lot longer. Tell me about sort of what you've seen in the last year, right? Like, and I know 2021 was a big year, obviously, for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Tell me about the acceleration. Tell me, to the extent you can, onboarding of customers. Has there been a big rush? Where have you seen it? Just give me a sense of the trends that you see, big picture in the last year as it relates to your company and sort of Bitcoin payments.
Yeah, I think we're seeing more and more companies that recognize the value of accepting crypto, allowing their customers to pay in crypto and in Bitcoin. And we really partner with our customers to market and sell their products and services to people that have cryptocurrency. And our goal with every customer is to get to a significant portion of their checkout. If we can be 5 to 10% of their payments, then that we're a significant form of payment. So trends, we're starting to see Bitcoin and crypto emerge as really the second most popular form of payment and the number one alternative payment method. There are certain industries that we're in where I mentioned that you have to, if you're a company in that industry, you now have to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. It's not an option, and it's table stakes for the companies in those industries. And we're seeing that in more and more industries. And so, in a number of the industries, we are the number one alternative payment method. And that's huge. And when you say number one alternative payment method, that means you're larger than gift cards, you're bigger than, cash payments, you're bigger than basically everything except for the credit cards.
And you said up to 5% of payments at some companies coming through BitPay or Bitcoin, or?
Oh, in some companies, it's much more than that. But our goal is to onboard that company and then get to like 5% of their payments. Because once you get to 2, 3, 4, 5% of payments, now you're a significant payment method for your customers, and you become sticky. But we do that by partnering with the merchant, raising awareness about their products and their services, making sure everybody who has Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency knows that they can, use that to pay at those merchants.
Yeah, you mentioned some real brand name companies, right? PacSun, who's also a customer of MicroStrategies and a great partner of ours. AT&T, Microsoft, right? Are you seeing this really take on mainstream adoption across like these major corporations at this point?
Oh, absolutely. It's really interesting. Bitcoin from the earliest days of forming BitPay was a really compelling and interesting idea and concept for a lot of the biggest corporations in the world. And so we would frequently get invited to present to the boardrooms of some of these companies. And I think a lot of companies are interested in it as a great alternative to other very expensive payment options through the credit cards. Credit cards were never designed for the internet. And so even from the earliest days, we saw that there was a lot of interest from, major companies, like you mentioned, AT&T, Microsoft, and many, many others. And we also see a large amount of interest from a marketing perspective. And so I mentioned we help companies really market their products and their services to these communities. So I would say years ago, a lot of companies were doing it for largely marketing reasons, and they still are doing it for marketing reasons today. But they're also seeing real adoption and real usage of the technology, which to me is really exciting.
Yeah. And in addition to some of the advantages that you mentioned, the marketing advantage that, targeting a particular segment of customers, I guess there's a cost advantage because it's a 1% fee versus settlement fees with other methods are higher. Are corporations also seeing a higher quality customer, one that, larger ticket sizes or also, returning customers? What are they seeing there?
Yeah, that's the number one question. We used to sell the service largely on the benefits that you mentioned, no chargebacks, low cost, all that. But invariably, companies would ask, well, how many people are actually going to pay this way? And are they existing customers that are going to switch the way they pay, or are they going to be new customers? And what we found is that, about 40% of the payments when they sign up are going to be from new customers. So that's really key. And then they do spend about twice as much as a typical credit card user. And, we can see the data. And so they're attracting more, not just new customers, but more valuable customers, ones that tend to spend more.
It's fascinating and pretty cool, really, when you think about it. So what do you see happening in the next 1 to 3 years, right? Like you've been on this 11-year journey, right? I guess you're into your second decade now. Where do you see this space going next?
Within payments, I think you're going to more and more people are just going to expect to be able to pay with Bitcoin and other cryptos. You're going to walk into a restaurant, just be able to expect to pay that way as much as you expect to pay with MasterCard and Visa. And so we've been building for that future for a long time at BitPay now. In the broader, just sort of a more general question about where Bitcoin is going. I think the great thing about Bitcoin is it's stable, it's well understood, it's something people know how it works, and it tends to be, the community tends to be very thoughtful and deliberate about making changes, and that in and of itself has a lot of value. So it's like this thing that does what it does. It's solid, and it's proven, at least 12 years now. Some amount of time, right? And so now we have this tool, and now people can start to think about, well, what can we do with it? And I think that's really exciting. I think the more time that passes, the more it gets woven into the fabric of the internet. The more people will just sort of accept it. A lot of people ask, like, when is it going to gain that mass adoption? I sort of respond to that by saying, well, when did the internet gain mass adoption? And you can't really point to any specific time, or you could take email or web browsers or whatever. But it kind of happened. It just naturally happened. And then one day you kind of look at the state of things and you realize that, yeah, email's woven itself into everything we do. The web has woven itself into everything that we do. The internet itself has woven itself into everything that we do. And I think the same thing will play out with Bitcoin. There's a lot of things and non-payments related things that Bitcoin can do. It's great that it's this sort of foundational protocol for payments and store of value. But it's also, the most secure time stamping service in the world. And so you can record things or tie things, connect things to that blockchain that, at any point in the future, you can look back at that and say, with absolute certainty that thing happened in the past, that event happened in the past. And that sort of immutable historical record is kind of an interesting, potential application of the technology.
Yeah, are you seeing some of your customers and folks you're working with, entering Bitcoin through BitPay for payment purposes more because it's being requested via customers, via employees, and then that being the gateway to better understanding the blockchain, even considering Bitcoin as a store of value? Like, are you seeing that sort of being the next steps that occur with your customers?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of our customers are interested in, taking that next step and making a balance sheet investment and whatnot. But yeah, it is being largely driven by customer demand, customer interest. And a great example of this is every fall, we invariably have a lot of charities coming to us wanting to accept charitable donations via Bitcoin. And the reason is very simple. At least in the US, it's your tax advantage to take whatever asset you have in your savings that has had the most appreciation and make your donation in that. And so that tends to, that many years, that's Bitcoin, right? And so as people are thinking about making charitable donations, they look at what asset's gone up the most in value. They see Bitcoin, they want to make that donation to their university or whatever charity it may be, using Bitcoin. And that's something we do. We know we've been doing for years now and know how to do well. And so we'll sign up a lot of charities during the fall that have their donors coming to them wanting to make donations in Bitcoin.
Great. So you have hundreds of corporations listening to you right now. You've seen them take the journey to accepting Bitcoin and then beyond that. But there are some who are like, hey, my customers are asking for this, my employees are asking for this, but it's just I have other priorities, right? Like, yeah. What advice do you give those folks?
You should prioritize Bitcoin because the world is moving forward, and the question I would ask them is why haven't you done it yet? It's time. But yes, priority is always something that it's one of the common objections, right? Yes, we want to do it, but not right now. And so we just work with those companies, and when they're ready, we're here, and we can get them up and running in very short order.
Great. There are other companies now flooding into the market that offer similar services to you. What are the big differentiations between you and your competitors?
Well, I would say number one, payments is our focus. So we're all about, and really it's payments that have a heavy workflow component to it. So imagine companies that need to process thousands of payments every day. There's a lot of, and it's not just the initial payment, it's also managing a refund, the exchange rates, the reconciliation for accounting purposes. So we really try to find use cases that have a heavy workflow component to them and make that workflow easy. And so I think that's a big advantage. We've won over many customers that come from a competitor that, say, I was using this other service, but they're just not getting the attention that they need. And with us, we have a phone number, you pick it up and call it, get somebody on the phone. We pride ourselves in our customer service. When people are making payments, they expect to be able to get in touch with somebody if it goes wrong. a lot of our competitors, it's a sideline. It's not their primary business, and so they just don't get the attention that they deserve from and that it's a great conversation to have when companies come to us in that circumstance, because I love telling them that you are our business, right? You are how we earn a living, and you're our top priority. So.
Well, what's next for you in BitPay? Are you planning any major new product launches, expansions? What's next?
We're always working on new things. I would say the big initiative. I talked a lot about how we help our companies raise awareness and market and sell their products and services, but there's a bigger theme there, which is at the point of payment. It's a great opportunity to interface with your customers. So. Doing more things along in that vein that enable our customers to better engage with their customers at that point of payment, and then continuing to focus on the other side of it, which is the payouts, and make those capabilities even more robust. And if you're one of the challenges with crypto is getting crypto actually into somebody's wallet, and a great way to do that is to get paid in crypto, and for it to just show up in your wallet every week, and so enabling that side of the equation, getting more companies signed up on that service is a big initiative for us as well.
Great. Well, Stephen, we're out of time. It was such a pleasure. I appreciate you joining Bitcoin for Corporations, and I really appreciate what you and BitPay are doing for the community.
Thank you, Phong, and thank you to MicroStrategy.
All right, take care. Thanks.
Bye-bye.